everybody? Welcome to Capital of Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to recap this past Saturday's Showtime Championship Boxing, which featured in the main event Adrian the Problem Broner versus Emmanuel Transformer Taylor. It also had Lucas Matisse versus Roberto Ortiz and Andre Berto versus Steven Upshur. We're going to go ahead and start from the bottom of the card and work back up. We did make a preview video for the fight. Unfortunately, had some family traveling. I went to visit some stuff. Didn't get the video out. Probably still put it out. And it'll probably be linked to this one. But we're going to go ahead and do our recap of said fight like you've seen our preview video. Haha. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, so the first fight was the return of Andre Berto from a 13-month layoff since his last fight versus Steven Upshur Chambers in a welterweight tilt. And the biggest thing that we wanted to see from Andre Berto in this particular fight was him being healthy and him having improved under Virgil Hunter, which we did see some improvement, and he looked to be his same explosive self, even though he came in at about 148, which is a pound over the welterweight limit.
Yeah.
But he still has this offensive game. Still a little better defensively. Could be a lot better. But, I mean, you can only be so much. This was his second fight with Virgil Hunter.
Yeah.
And not only was it a second fight, but of course he had that long layoff, so he had to spend time, first of all, surgery, then rehabbing, then get back in a fighter shape, then improving. So he was what we expected, kind of rusty. Still had a good chin. Still had a lot of wherewithal. He was very still tough. He wasn't in there against a puncher, but against a guy who gave him very good work. I wouldn't so much call it a showcase fight as I would a comeback fight.
Yeah.
But it was very good.
Bit of both.
A little bit of both. I mean, Upshur Chambers was planning to go to 140, but he got this fight. So, I mean, it was interesting to see Berto. He looked good. Now we got to see the step of the competition, how he's going to look from here.
Yeah. The one thing that I was most impressed with was his use of the jab. He doubled it up. He went to the head. He went to the body. That is a very underutilized tool from his previous fights that he is starting to implement now. So his tutelage under Hunter is working. I watched the interview with Hunter himself, and he said, you know, it's going to take a couple of fights for them to really gel and mesh with each other, which is true. You got to get used to the trainer's style. And like Rob said, he's coming off a long layoff where he had his shoulder, had to get it redone, had to heal from that, get back into regular shape, then back into fighting shape. And something that Hunter said that I thought was pretty funny. He said that Berto didn't have to do a push-up or a pull-up ever again in his life, and he'd be fine. Which is true. I mean, the guy is really heavily muscular, and he did look a little bit smaller than he has before. So hopefully they can work on that defense against the faster, harder hitting elites of the welterweight division. Hopefully he can get back in the title picture pretty soon. There's some guys, maybe he can get a rematch with Guerrero, Devin Alexander. I think that would be a good fight to find out where he is. Maybe one or two fights he might be able to get, maybe like a Kell Brook or somebody like that. That'll really show where he is as far as whether he's elite or not. Right now, we're kind of saying he's like right at the line, not quite elite, and that's been the general consensus of him for the last few years. So maybe with the tutelage of Hunter, he can finally cross that elite threshold. That's it for that one. Let's move on to the second fight, which was Lucas Matisse versus Roberto Ortiz. And in this one, we said in the preview video, get your popcorn ready, enjoy it, somebody's going down. Somebody went down. I didn't think the fight was too enjoyable because, one, each guy was a little bit better defensively than usually advertised. And then the ending was kind of anticlimactic. What you think, Rob?
Basically, Lucas Matisse caught Roberto Ortiz with actually a beautiful left to the body, which sent Roberto Ortiz down with that delayed reaction. And he stayed down there. Mouthpiece came out of his mouth, had to take the knee, and the referee, who's probably going to catch some flack here, it's going to be an investigation, counted. And Roberto Ortiz took every moment that he could, but
Too many,
or waited too long, because he stood up as the ref was saying 10. He was saying it in Spanish. We understood what he said, but it's almost like he went nueve. And that's when Ortiz started his way up, and Diaz, and you could say even before he got up, it was waved off. It was Diaz, which there is some controversy, but we know if you're a fighter, get up at 8.
Yeah, even before 7. I say get 7 or 8. In order to be considered up, they made a big hullabaloo about it on the Showtime telecast. They were like, your knee has to come up off the canvas. That is false. You have to be completely up and in a ready position for you to be considered up. So him standing up at 9 was pretty much him getting counted out. You've got to be up and ready before that ref stops the count. That's why a lot of times you see the ref still counting when people are standing up. You have to get up, get in your ready position. They'll give you to the count of 8. They wipe your gloves off, ask you if you're okay, check with the timekeeper and all that stuff. There's another 5 to 10 seconds that you're gonna get anyway if you get up on time. So don't try to wait till the very last second to get up. Ortiz learned that the hard way a very long time ago. Malik Scott did too. Hopefully, now that you guys have heard this, if you are a fighter, you do the same thing. Really, that was it for this fight, because the guys were still in their feeling out process. They were missing a lot of punches. And then Matisse landed that good body shot, and it was over. So let's move on to the main event, which was Adrian Broner's homecoming fight. His first fight there in like 3 years, fighting Emmanuel Taylor, a tough guy from Maryland. Kind of underrated. A lot of people weren't giving him a lot of chance in this fight. In our preview video, we picked Broner to win by decision. One that would be close but not so close. I think we said like 8 rounds to 4, 7 rounds to 5 type of thing, which it was. And a lot of that was because we feel that Broner just doesn't fight up to his potential. And there's a lot of things that he does well, just doesn't do it enough. And a lot of that showed in this fight. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, we say that he doesn't fight up to his potential, but I will say this: Emmanuel Taylor fought up to his competition, because he really brought the fight to Broner. And one of the things that we saw, and I think the jury's out on it, is that Broner is at his worst fighting backwards and with constant pressure. And we discovered which is the DMV style. For those who don't know, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, Northern Virginia, it's a high guard, and it's walking your opponent down with constant pressure. You see the
Peterson brothers.
The Peterson brothers do it very well. I don't think Taylor's the puncher that Lamont Peterson is, but nonetheless, he brought that style, and he was able to keep his hands moving and working and got some very good shots in, especially to the body. And he landed very well with a few looping shots. Broner
and some good straight rights.
And Broner gave as good as he got. He was clearly bigger. He was clearly faster. I will say he was more skilled, but I think that his Achilles heel is that pressure. You saw it in the McDonald fight. You saw it in the Gavin Reese.
Yeah.
Gavin Reed's fight, you see it in his fights where if someone is not afraid of him and not worried about his speed, they can walk him down. And I'm telling you, if someone can cut off the ring, that's going to make a big difference. But he showed the hand speed, and when he let his hands go is when you really saw Broner take control of the fight, or take control of the round. Because let's not say fight, let's say the round. When he really let his hands go and traded and punched with Taylor, having that faster hand speed, you can see where he landed the harder shots, which ended with him knocking Taylor down in the 12th round as the fight was about to end.
Right. And Broner was very accurate, so was Taylor. Broner was trying to set up his shots by doing a lot of shoe shining and slapping and then throwing hard punches, which is cool because he got knocked down off of it.
Change the pace.
Right. Against the upper tier fighters, I wouldn't recommend that so much. I would probably I would prefer that he actually ball that fist, turn those punches over, even if he's kind of just flashing them. One of them may get through. So it's good to turn those punches over so you can really give them something to cover up for. Because if you're up against those elite fighters, they see you're only going to throw one hard punch, they're just going to throw a punch when you're doing your shoe shine and you're going to get hit.
Or at least change up, like a soft one, follow with a hard one, maybe two soft ones and a hard one. You gotta throw some curveballs in there just to keep them off balance so they don't time you. It's like, oh, he's gonna throw 4 soft punches and a hard one, just to make sure to avoid that last one and counter.
Right. Or hit you before you throw that hard one.
Right. And then of course another thing, he didn't really depend or really use the shoulder roll much in this fight. He did it a few times, but it was more like he had a high guard as well, and he was willing to stand there and fight Taylor, except for those times that he found himself against the ropes.
Yeah, and when Broner did use his feet, he looked really good using his feet. He just uses them very sparingly. And also, he had that high guard, but one thing I didn't like was he was squaring up a lot, which took a lot of the power off of especially his straight right hand. He didn't have that full leverage and the full body movement of throwing that right hand that would really sting Taylor or anybody else for that matter and really lay some damage on him. Broner's face was a little more worse for wear than Taylor's at the end of the fight, even though, you know, Broner was the one that had the showier punches and it seemed like the harder punches. Taylor's looked like they did more damage because Taylor was actually throwing his with a little bit more commitment than Broner. So hopefully that's something he can work on. But if you watched our preview video, there's a lot of flaws that he has had that he has not worked on because you see him in fight after fight after fight. And maybe one day he'll get a wake-up call to start working on these flaws. With that being said, he called out Lucas Matisse. I don't think that's a good idea. He's not active enough, and those flaws that we talked about in the preview video and some of the things we've been talking about here, somebody like Matisse would really put some hands on him and do some damage. But maybe he fixes all those flaws and shines. So they gotta fight the fight. If they make the fight, I'm gonna watch it anyway. So hey, let them do it. What you got?
That's all I got for this card. Hopefully you also caught the Bellator. What was that
123?
Yeah, Bellator.
I DVR'd it. I haven't watched it yet.
Bellator 123, which features some good fights, and UFC Fight Night, is that 50?
50, yeah.
50.
I did watch that one.
Which also has some really good fights.
Yeah. And also, that's it. That's it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, make sure you like it. You got anything to say? Comment section below. excuse me, you can hit us up on our Facebook page, Capital Combat. You can hit us up on Google Plus, same name. Email, capitalcombat@gmail.com. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick ground, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.